Farm milk controller. You set this one in. I got to admit, when I first saw it, I pictured someone in a control booth, like pushing buttons to direct cows around.
I'm not sure if that technology exists yet, but I can see where you get that idea.
Right. But after digging into this RoleCatcher guide, it's way more interesting than I expected. You ready to unpack this?
Absolutely. It's a role that's becoming increasingly important in modern agriculture.
So for our listener who's picturing that cow traffic jam right now, let's clear the air.
Yeah.
What does a farm milk controller actually do?
In a nutshell, they're the guardians of quality for dairy farms. They ensure that the milk produced meets all the necessary standards from safety and nutrition to, yes, even taste.
Okay, so it's not just about the cows, but the milk itself. The guide mentions scientific analysis. Are we talking lab coats and microscopes here?
You got it. They're conducting tests to analyze milk composition, identify potential contaminants, and make sure everything aligns with industry regulations.
Wow, so there's a whole science side to it.
Hmm.
But they're also out on the farm, working directly with the farmers.
Absolutely. A big part of their role is advising farmers on best practices to maximize milk production and maintain that high quality. They're kind of like consultants, but with a focus on dairy.
So they need to speak both the language of science and the language of, well, farmers.
Exactly. It's a unique blend of technical expertise and interpersonal skills. They might be analyzing data one minute and then discussing feeding schedules with a farmer the next.
This is already way more dynamic than I thought it would be. And the guide mentions some pretty enticing pros, like strong job security
Yeah,
and the potential for a really good salary.
that's right. The demand for qualified farm milk controllers is growing steadily, especially as consumers become more and more discerning about where their food comes from.
Makes sense. Everyone cares about what's in their milk. But the guide also mentions some downsides: long hours, physical demands, the potential for things to get a bit repetitive.
Those are all fair points. It's not a desk job, that's for sure. You're on your feet, often outdoors, and dealing with the realities of farm life, which isn't always glamorous.
All right, so you're telling me it's not all milk and honey, so to speak. But here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I bet for our listener too. The guide highlights a growing emphasis on sustainability within this role.
Absolutely. With the increasing focus on environmentally friendly practices, farm milk controllers are on the front lines of implementing sustainable farming methods.
Okay, so walk me through that. How does a farm milk controller contribute to sustainability on a dairy farm?
They might advise farmers on things like water conservation techniques, responsible waste management, or even optimizing herd health to reduce the environmental impact.
No, they're not just controlling the milk, they're kind of controlling the whole environmental impact of milk production.
In a way, yes. They're becoming increasingly involved in ensuring that dairy farms operate sustainably, which is a huge plus for environmentally conscious individuals.
Yeah.
And that's something you can really leverage if this is a career path you're serious about.
That's a great point. So we've established that this is a pretty cool blend of science, agriculture, and even a bit of environmental stewardship. But what about our listener who's thinking, hey, this actually sounds like ME? What kind of background do they need to even consider this path?
Well, the guide mentions a few different academic routes, which is great news for anyone who's worried about having the perfect degree. They highlight agriculture and animal science, of course.
Makes sense, you're dealing with cows and milk.
Exactly. But they also mention things like business, economics, and even statistics as valuable backgrounds.
Wait, really? So you could be a numbers whiz and still thrive in this role?
Absolutely. A lot of it comes down to data analysis, process optimization, and understanding the economics of the dairy industry. Those skills are super transferable.
That's actually really encouraging.
Yeah.
It means you don't necessarily need a hyper-specific degree to get your foot in the door.
Exactly. And while a formal education is valuable, there's something else that's arguably even more important in this field, and it aligns perfectly with your love for actionable advice.
Hit me with it. What's the secret sauce?
Practical experience. You could have a PhD in dairy science, but if you've never set foot on a farm or worked with dairy cows, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
So book smarts versus barn smarts.
In a way, yes. And the great thing is you can start gaining that practical experience right now. You could volunteer on a local dairy farm, get some hands-on experience, and really see if this is a good fit for you.
That's what I love about these deep dives. There's always something actionable our listener can take away. In this case, it's potentially signing up to milk some cows this weekend. But let's say you've got the academic background, maybe you've even gotten your hands dirty on a farm. What does the actual career trajectory look like?
Yeah.
So you've put in the time, maybe even gotten a whiff of what fresh hay smells like at dawn.
Hmm.
What's next? Thankfully, RoleCatcher lays out some pretty clear career stages to give us an idea of what that upward climb looks like.
Right, it's not like you're just thrown into the deep end of the milk tank after a few weeks on a farm.
Okay, that actually brings back a horrifying childhood memory of almost falling into a vat of chocolate milk. But I digress. So you've got your entry-level folks. What are they doing on a daily basis?
You're starting by getting your hands dirty, literally. Think assisting with milk sample collection, um, learning how to use testing equipment, maybe even entering data into those spreadsheets.
Important stuff, because even milk masterminds need accurate data. But you're not stuck in data entry forever, right?
Definitely not. The guide showed a pretty clear progression. As a junior farm milk controller, you're taking on more responsibility. You're conducting those tests independently, maybe even starting to analyze the results and present your findings to farmers.
I imagine that's a pretty big step, going from following instructions to actually advising someone on how to run their farm. What kind of skills are critical at this stage?
Communication is huge. You're no longer just dealing with data, you're dealing with people, farmers who are relying on your expertise to make informed decisions.
And probably some delicate conversations too, like, hey, gotta be honest, your milk hygiene game needs a little work.
Exactly. It requires tact, diplomacy, and the ability to explain complex information in a way that makes sense to someone who might not be a scientist.
Okay, so you've mastered the data, you've won over the farmers, you've even managed to avoid any accidental milk swims.
Yeah.
What does a seasoned farm milk controller look like? The veterans of the field.
That's where you reach that milk mastermind level you were talking about earlier.
All right, I'll try not to overuse that, but seriously, what are they up to?
At that level, you're overseeing entire operations, maybe even managing teams of junior farm milk controllers. You're collaborating with industry experts, staying ahead of new regulations and technologies, and essentially shaping the future of dairy production.
That's a far cry from pushing cows around with buttons.
Yeah.
But that brings up a good point for our listener who might be thinking long term. Are there career paths beyond the farm? Could this be a stepping stone to something else?
Absolutely. One of the most valuable things about this role is the transferable skills you develop.
Like what? Give me the highlight reel.
Data analysis is huge in every industry. So is process optimization, understanding regulations, and having that experience communicating complex information to different audiences.
So, our milk mastermind could easily transition into a role in food science, agricultural technology, maybe even something like supply chain management.
Exactly. They'd be highly sought after. Imagine walking into a job interview and saying, I've optimized milk production for an entire region, ensuring top-notch quality while adhering to strict environmental regulations.
I'd hire you on the spot. But let's say our listener is ready to trade their keyboard for some rubber boots and a milk testing kit. What does the actual job hunt look like for aspiring farm milk controllers?
RoleCatcher had a whole section on acing the interview process. And it's not just about knowing your pasteurization from your homogenization.
Ooh, get technical. What kind of questions are they asking?
They want to see if you can handle the real-world challenges of the job. Think scenario-based questions. How would you handle a sudden drop in milk production? Quote, how would you implement a new sustainability initiative on a resistant farm?
So it's not enough to just know the theory. You need to show them you can think on your feet and deal with whatever the dairy gods throw your way.
Exactly. They're also going to be looking for those soft skills we talked about, communication, problem solving, even a bit of conflict resolution. Remember, you're the liaison between the lab and the barn.
You've got to speak both cow A&D chemistry. So aside from brushing up on your dairy trivia and perfecting your cow whispering skills, any other tips from the guide on how to stand out in a stack of applications?
Well, RoleCatcher had some pretty interesting advice on that front. They're big on using AI tools to tailor your resume and cover letter.
It's such a smart strategy. Instead of sending out a generic application, you can really highlight the skills and experiences that specific employers are looking for.
So it's like, okay, this farm prioritizes sustainability. Let's make sure my experience volunteering with that composting project is front and center. Exactly. Or maybe they're looking for someone with strong data analysis skills. Boom, you highlight that project where you used statistical software to optimize, I don't know, piglet feeding schedules.
See, this is why you're the expert.
Yeah.
I would have gone with optimized hay bale stacking, but you get the idea.
The point is, using these AI tools can help you connect the dots for potential employers. It's like saying, look, I understand what you need and I've got the goods to deliver.
It's like that saying, dress for the job you want, but in this case, it's tailor your resume for the milk you want to control.
Something like that. And it's not just about keywords. It's
Yeah.
about showcasing the experiences that demonstrate those skills. Did you volunteer on a farm? Manage a team? Analyze data in a previous role? Put it all in there in a way that's relevant to what dairy farms are looking for.
Make it impossible for them to ignore you.
Mm.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from farm milk controller, what is that,
Mm.
to understanding the ins and outs of this surprisingly complex and potentially lucrative career path.
And we've learned that it's not just about cows and milk. It's about data analysis, quality assurance, sustainability, even leadership and communication. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
But there's one final nugget from the guide that I think is worth pondering. They mentioned a few certifications, like becoming a certified milk inspector or a certified dairy food scientist.
It makes you wonder if those could be the key to unlocking even higher earning potential or specializing in a particular niche within the field. Like, do you want to be the expert on organic dairy farming practices? There might be a certification for that.
Or maybe you want to be the go-to consultant for farms that are struggling with, I don't know, low butterfat content.
Exactly. Having those certifications on your resume can demonstrate a deeper level of expertise and commitment to the field, and it might just be the thing that gives you an edge in a competitive job market.
So it's like leveling up your milk mastermind status.
Precisely. Though maybe we can workshop that title a bit more.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
But for you listening, if this deep dive has piqued your interest in the world of farm milk controlled, digging into those certifications is a great next step. Do some research, see what's out there, and who knows, maybe this time next year, you'll be the one advising us on all things dairy.
And if you happen to invent that cow traffic control system, we definitely want an exclusive interview.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy learning.